Hi, my name is Stephanie Simeon. I am the Coalition Coordinator for SUPMedway.
My name's Carolyn Benedetto. I've been a resident of Medway for 18 years now, and I am a member of the SUPMedway Coalition.
SUPMedway is a community coalition. The SUP stands for Substance Use Prevention, and the mission of the coalition is to prevent youth from engaging in any kind of drugs.
So we focus mainly on drinking and vaping. Those are the two areas where we have our main focus.
A community coalition is taking a public health approach by looking at the whole population of this particular community, in this case Medway. Almost all Medway public school students do the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey. That's one of our data points. We also actually have done focus groups. We've done many one-on-one sort of information interviews with community members, and taking all these different both number-related data as well as qualitative data really helps us get the bigger picture of what's happening and what's needed right here in Medway. National data shows that alcohol use has been on a downward trend for some time, but unfortunately alcohol continues to be one of the top used drugs of young people, and as you probably well know, there still are many consequences to underage drinking, especially the fact that young people, their brains are still developing. So for a teenager, alcohol is could be much more dangerous for that young brain, because the structure is still in the process of being set and developed. Our role in prevention is not just education. Education is extremely important, but we want to go beyond that and impact how the environment is for a young person. We know that there are risk factors and protective factors.
Everyone's aware that some kids are drinking, some kids are vaping, and so we want to educate the kids that if they're not aware that these behaviors can lead to health problems in the future.
So a community coalition is looking at how do we help bolster any kind of protective factors. The more people know, but also the more positive ways of engaging with the community or sense of belonging, or really helping to support and bolster mental health.
I think a lot of the focus of students is not to drink and drive. And everyone knows that's bad, right? But they don't know that just drinking is bad for you as well. And then as far as vaping goes, nobody knows exactly the long-term effects of that yet. So just knowing that you're putting unhealthy chemicals into your body and that the chance of addiction is much higher.
Some of the Medway data points that might be interesting is that for the students who had said that they've done vaping in the past year, more than half of them have tried to quit. So we have seen in the Medway data that if those students who do drink tend to access alcohol at parties, but the fact is that most people don't want parties to happen because of that data point, that 9 out of 10 Medway parents do not want their underage child drinking in someone else's home.
So one of the things that the communications team is focusing on now is the Building Bright Brains campaign. So that campaign is to educate students on the fact that your brain isn't fully developed until the age of 25, and any behaviors you engage in before that, depending if they're healthy behaviors or unhealthy behaviors, can affect your brain in a positive or negative fashion.
And this is all about trying to balance the factual information that people need to know about how substances can impact the young developing mind, but also give positive practical tips as well. We know that just saying no to drugs doesn't always work. We don't want to just come across with fear factor type of information, but it's important to know the factual information as well as the positive ways you can help have a successful brain development and help with building healthy kids, essentially.
We are looking at introducing this campaign to the community and publicizing it through various social media channels, as well as tabling at upcoming Medway events. But we are also trying to get in front of people one-on-one in a personal manner so that they can talk to us and ask questions and engage with the coalition members. There's two areas of focus. So there's Brain Boost and Brain Bust. So for Brain Boost, we're focusing on things that lead to healthy behaviors, eating the right foods, being hydrated, having family dinners, for example. So we want to really educate on what the positive things you can do to to have a healthy brain are versus the brain busts, which are the unhealthy behaviors like drinking before the age of 25, because it can lead to an increased risk of addiction to alcohol. You know, another brain boost might be getting outside and taking a walk, getting some fresh air, talking to a friend, something that's going to lead to, you know, that happiness feeling, or just content and ultimately healthy activities.
There is research that shows that if parents set expectations with their young people, that is actually a big driver for if young people choose to engage in a behavior like in underage drinking or involving other drugs.
So the response of parents in the community, I think, is that they do think it's an issue. They do think that teens are engaging in risky behaviors and unhealthy behaviors. And they're very responsive to hearing what we have to offer and what type of education that we're doing. I think that they want to learn more so that they can have conversations with their kids.
Having the talk with a young person about drugs, ideally, that should be something that is constant conversation, and not just in a lecture type of format, but if there's ways of having dialogue and conversation, or just even having questions. There's many ways that you can prompt a conversation with a young person about substance use. If you see something on television, or if you hear a young person talking about another student who's vaping, or just bringing up the conversation of parties and drinking, you can not just be sort of telling them it's important to have those expectations, but it could also be really helpful to ask your young person in your life questions, what they thought about that, how often they see it, and to have these types of conversations frequently. The fact that drugs are changing, and not just the drugs themselves, but how young people access drugs is changing, we have to always think about how we can evolve our parenting as well.
I think the feedback from parents is that they think their kids aren't listening, but our surveys and research have shown that kids are listening to parents, and so just having that conversation more often. Obviously, this isn't a new issue, and I think that the goal of this program is to just keep raising awareness. I know there's been other programs in the past that have varying degrees of success, but we're really hoping that by getting so many members of the community involved, there's a large cross-section of people. There's parents, there's business owners, there's other community members that are all involved in this.
The SUPMedway Coalition has gone ahead and put together a list of different resources. And when I say resources, there's so many different types of support. Some people might need all the way to the edge of treatment, or it might be someone else in your life that's impacted by substance use. So there's lots of different types of support groups or events, or even text lines that you can get as support, whether it's you or someone you know who's involved in substances. So the SUPMedway website, which is www.supmedway.com, has that list of resources that we always update. There's lots of different ways to engage with SUPMedway to the level of your comfort. We're open to those who want to actually volunteer and get involved in a certain project or many projects. We're happy to have people add to our email list, so you can get a once a month or once every other month update about what's available and what's happening. We also have a very active Facebook page, so there's lots of different ways to get involved. Probably every Medway person I've talked to has been impacted by substance use in some way, whether it's yourself or someone you know. So the fact that these challenges come up in adulthood, we're focused on avoiding them by focusing on the young people and preventing substance use in youth. The fact is, most Medway youth do not use any drugs. The fact is that most Medway youth do not drink alcohol. And so if we can normalize that positive aspect, that most Medway youth are already choosing the right behavior of not drinking or not vaping, that becomes sort of freedom for a young person to realize they're not alone in that choice. They don't have to feel pressured to be like all the other young people, because most people aren't drinking or most people aren't vaping. The fact that we have community members who represent all different aspects of the community, whether it is the healthcare field, law enforcement, the schools, parents, youth themselves, we have representation from every sector, which is really a fantastic success.
You know, ideally, kids wouldn't engage in these risky behaviors, and they'd be aware, and they'd tell their friends, don't smoke vapes and don't drink.
I've always been interested in health, but I always knew that I did not want to work in a hospital. I want to prevent people from ever entering a hospital.